I am Rich the Lich, and this is my review on Monster Manual Expanded. It is a 5th edition supplement. It gives you basically more of what you would otherwise find in the Monster Manual, and as the title indicates, expands on that. This is a PDF that I purchased a day or two ago on DM's Guild for $19.99. So for $20, based on what it says up here, you get 336 pages of goodness. That being said, is there enough here? Is it more of just the same? Is it a little bit of just a reskin or rehash of whatever is in the Monster Manual? Or are we actually getting a bunch of new bits? So let's digest it and let's get into it. Now, when we look at what's in the table of contents, let's compare it to, I can efficiently do a good comparison here because I've got D&D Beyond. I have all of the content. And I can confirm that when we look at the Monster Manual in another digital format on what would be a PDF form, this is exactly as is in my book. I have the Monster Manual, the hardcover book, on my shelf as well. And word for word, we are looking at the exact same content. So in the Monster Manual itself, we've got, under letter A, we've got 6 headings, right? We have the Aarakocra, we have Aboleth, Angels, Animated Objects, Ankheads, Hegs, and Azers. If we look at the PDF, you'll notice that you've got Aarakocras, Aboleths, Angels, Animated Objects, Hegs, and Azers. Same thing, right? But you'll notice there's a bunch more headings under here. And that is what the strength of this book is. That is its major selling point. We have those 6. If I look at the Monster Manual itself, let's see how many diverse things we have within one letter. Of course, I'm not going to go over all of the content in this book. I'm going to kind of pick a certain section and let's see where the differences are. And we'll assume that that treatment of this cool PDF is done throughout the remainder of it, therefore showing us what we're going to get. So if we have the Aarakocra, in the Monster Manual, the official WotC produced book, we have that single creature. That's it. As we scroll down, so that's one thing. We have an Aboleth. It's a legendary. It's got cool layer actions and a bunch of details of lore and history, but we just have that one stat block. So it's going to do that thing, and that's it. Okay? So we have Angels, where we have a Diva, a Planetar, and a Solar. So there's 3 there. So we're at 5. 5 different creature stat blocks, things you can bring with you to the table, you know, the nuts and bolts of what a thing can do. We have 5 things so far within the letter A. We have animated objects of animated armor, we have a flying sword, and we have a ring of smothering. So we are now at 8. You have a single Ankheg. So we're at 9. And then we have one Azer, which you have 10 different things that you can bring with you to the table from the Monster Manual. If we compared that to it being along the same headings and categories, we've got 3 Aarakocras, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You have 19 things. So you basically doubled the content of the Monster Manual. Now, let's see if it's just a rehash or a reskin, okay? Let's use the Angels, because in the Monster Manual you have the Diva, the Planetar, and the Solar. Here, you have a Diva, a Planetar, and a Solar as well. Let's see if it's just the same thing. First, let's take a look at the Diva. Lawful good, normal, natural armor, nothing crazy there, some hit points. It has the ability to fly, of course. Some big standouts. It's got some resistances. You have angelic weapons. The attacks are magical, and the weapon deals an extra 48 radiant, so that's already in the attack, but quite a bit of power and damage output. And then it has, of course, innate spellcasting ability, and it has magic resistance. As far as special things, it has the ability to make multiple attacks. As we already indicated, part of those attacks in their damage is radiant. It has a healing touch ability, kind of like a lay on hands, I'm guessing. I don't want to delve into it too much. And then it has the ability to polymorph into a humanoid or beast, so it can definitely take new forms and manifest themselves in a very powerful way. Let's take a look at the Diva in here, using the neat little navigation along the left side. Oops, sorry, I'm in letter A. The Diva Shaitan. Nice touch. It gives you some information and details on what this thing can do. So we have the same armor, basically, almost same armor class. Fly speed. The Diva in the Monster Manual flew a little faster. No big deal. When you're just noodling numbers, you know, making it thicker, more hit points, harder to hit, higher attack bonus, things like that, that's not enough of a change to give me good flavor to my table that I would, why I would defer to this instead of the monster manual. I'm looking for more than that, some more detail. Well, first thing that stands out, this guy's chaotic evil. All right. And it talks about fallen angels. No longer celestials, these angels have lost some of their powers, including fast flight speed. The thing we just talked about, right? Magic resistance and the ability to project radiant energy. Wonderful. Okay? Clearly, we're not even talking apples to apples here at this point. You had this angelic, lawful good, super fast flying magic resistance thing. And now, because it mentions it from the element of, while most fallen angels have usually gone astray due to Asmodeus' corruption, some have succumbed to the temptations of Graz, the dark prince of pleasure. So, this demonic influence has changed what is otherwise the Diva in the monster manual, and it's created an entirely new creature. Well done. So, even though we're looking at Diva to Diva, something very different here. You've got damage resistances still, but it lost that ability to resist magic. It doesn't fly as fast. It has fiendish weapons, where now instead of the radiant damage, kind of one and the same, but it just flipped it. Right now it deals an extra 48 necrotic, innate spellcasting. But while in dim lighted darkness, again, following the theme and the flow of it all, of the shadow darker entity, the Diva can use the hide action as a bonus action. Awesome. It has the ability to shadow step. So you've just changed the mechanics of a combat. But the cool thing is, unless you're playing an evil campaign, you're not really fighting. The Diva's not an encounter. It might be an NPC. Where here, you have this CR10 entity that gives you something. It has the ability to life drain, and it's just very well done. Okay, and there we were trying to compare and see. You've got the same three things in the monster manual, but clearly we're looking at things that are very different. I'm not going to go over the planetar and the solar, but I'm assuming you're going to start to, as I said, I will show you a few things in this PDF that might indicate the direction this is going and the assumption there, and I will confidently say that is the case. You are getting new. You are getting different, and that's the major selling point. And in that, if you're getting enough different to that level of 336 pages, this is a purchase well worth your money. So that's just those, right? But look at how wonderful we can look at things where, like the ink eggs. Now you're obviously getting something different, because in the monster manual, all you had was a single ink egg. That's it. It's just this large monstrosity, and it's only a CR2. You have natural armor. It has the ability to burrow. It has the ability to bite, and it has the ability to acid spray, which is a recharge. You roll the d6, and it might be able to have that ability back. Of course, you have your lore and your details, and where it comes from and what they're about, but that's it. I mean, you have the picture of this cool in the monster manual, but we kind of know what they do. There's some holes in the region, this wasteland, this tundra, and there's just holes everywhere. Watch out for ink eggs. I've fought these in other campaigns and so on and so forth. I kind of have an idea of what they can do. CR2, right? When your character's level 3, 4, 5, it's a problem if they're in large numbers, kind of getting into that Starship Troopers effect where you're being swarmed, or Zerg. But otherwise, we know what their capabilities are. In here, though, you have something entirely new. We have a CR8 thing. This thing is now going to wipe your level 3s. Natural armor, sure, but it burrows, sure, same thing, but now it can lay eggs. As a bonus action, the Brood Queen can lay an egg that contains an ankhead broodling. This is the epitome of spawning new things, right? Here's the stat block for that. You have Burst Forth. The Brood Queen breaks through the solid ground or wall as a bonus action, showering the area with debris. Each creature within 15 feet that is surprised must succeed on a DC 17 strength. I'm reminded of Transformers, right? When and that, whatever the hell it was, the scorpion thing broke through the crust. They felt something was coming, but now we're dealing at 46 plus 6 bludgeoning, you know what I mean? And you have multi-attacks and claws, and it can command the other ink eggs to do things so that they sort of use their reaction to make attacks off turn. Awesome. That's one simple change, but it's an entirely new creature. Okay? Very, very well done. Let me kind of move towards the last bit of the video. As I said, I'm not going to look at everything, but you've got an entire group, or entire subtypes of all these things, just as I said in the very beginning of the video, where it says that's the strength of it, that you have skirmishers and brutes and ranged attack people and scouts and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at one of my favorite creature types, which is a goblin. Let's compare the goblins that are in the monster manual and what's in here and how that might present itself into providing you with obviously more options at the table. But what does that do for your gameplay session? And if I can sell you on that, I'm selling you on the book. So let's jump into the goblins real quick. Okay, we're talking about goblins. So before I kind of delve into that too much, oftentimes when you're seeing new content, new things, right? And it might be wonderful entertainment, right? Like as though you're reading a work of fiction. And the beauty of things like that in the D&D space is, as Dungeon Master, right? And even players, we are in a world, of imagination, and anything that can provide fuel and spark the imagination and give me inspiration is oftentimes something that I'm going to look at, and perhaps something that I will say that was well worth my money. But when you can sort of transcend that or go even beyond that and take something that is now just more than inspiration and story and give me something I can actually use at the table, that's where it really starts to shine. And that's the crux of what I want to kind of cover when we talk about the goblins here. Oftentimes a goblin is something known as sort of it's cool, but it's sort of a throwaway, right? I understand there's races of, you've got them in Ravnica, they're a playable race, and they're in Volo's Guide, was where I believe they were first mentioned. And now you have, the more well-known, like with Critical Role and Not, played by Sam. So goblins can certainly stand out, and they may be characters that you made in World of Warcraft or something, but generally they're kind of just a throwaway. When you see a goblin, yeah, they may have some agenda. Are they bandits? Are they trying to steal something? Are they being mischievous? Are they truly a threat? But generally it's kind of roll initiative. Is he dead? Is he not dead? When you're in combat with them, there's sort of 15 around. Just like I said with the Ankhegs, yeah, maybe their numbers might make the combat memorable and threatening, but otherwise it's just goblins. Maybe you have a goblin with a sword, but this goblin has a bow and that goblin has a dagger. But why is it only sort of reserved for the epic, a Rakshasa or a legendary dragon or a named giant as you would find in Storm King's Thunder? Why are those the only ones that sort of have that epic encounter to it? Ultimately, what we want to bring to the table with an encounter is a memorable encounter, something that the players will always latch on to. Yes, you can do that when certain players die, or that's when I first found that legendary weapon and so on, but the monsters themselves, you don't always want to just sort of degenerate everything down into roll, you hit, goblin's dead. Okay, he attacks, he's at range with a bow, he kills you or he hits you. If we can add more flavor to it, you're creating just a better gameplay session overall. So in the monster manual, we look at goblins. Of course, you've got details and lore, what they are. We kind of all know they're, fantasy creatures that have been around since Tolkien, if not before or something. So we know what they are. But as far as a stat block, you have two, and that's it. You have the goblin, and then you have a boss. And yes, the boss has this ability called redirect attack. When a creature the goblin can see targets it with an attack, the goblin chooses another goblin within 5 feet, and the two goblins swap places, and the chosen goblin becomes the target instead. That definitely has a little bit of a bodyguard/boss element to it, but otherwise, they're kind of similar. You've got nimble escape. The goblin boss is going to have a little better armor class because he's simply wearing better armor. Maybe if you want to upgrade that, you can say he stole plate mail from a dwarf or something, and he has more hit points. He's a little thicker. But otherwise, template-wise, again, when you are just dealing with buffing things up by giving them better attack bonus, more hit points, more AC, there's not enough meat and flavor there. Now, we're looking at goblins here, where you've got an alchemist. Cool, nimble escape, simple armor, right? Their armor class is going to be based upon what sort of armor they're wearing. So you can give them some flavor of giving him, they came upon some adventures and they took all their armor, so that guy looks a little different. Relatively same hit points, okay? But this guy's volatile. When the goblin takes damage that is not poison or psychic, roll a d20. On a 1 through 5, the goblin's alchemical pack explodes. The goblin and each creature within 10 feet of it must succeed on a dex saving throw, otherwise you take 5d6 fire. We have a CR1 creature here, but how memorable this single goblin can be just based on the fact that that becomes a major problem for low-level PCs. I mean, you can't afford to be taking 5d6 fire damage. But the volatile nature of it, if I was to use the same sort of description, it makes sense for goblins. There's that reckless nature to it where, you would think something a little smarter, although he's got a 13 int, a little more caring might think, you know what, I probably shouldn't have this backpack on when I go into battle. This dude doesn't give a damn. Also, ranged attacks. He's not just using a bow and shooting from far away. He's throwing acid flasks at you. He's got a Molotov cocktail. He's got a tangle web. That's just the alchemist. It gives you a neat little description of what he's about. We look at the Black Blade. He is in rare occasions, a goblin shows an affinity for the dark arts and becomes a warlock. He's got some Hexblade curse. He's got spell casting. You have a chieftain. Okay, we'll compare him to the boss. Nimble escape, sure. More hit points, sure. Better AC, same, fine. But Gang Lord's presence, a goblin ally that starts its turn within 30 feet of this goblin and can see and hear the chieftain, deals additional damage. Every one of them that can see and hear him, they deal additional damage. This guy has sneak attack. Yeah, he has the same redirect attack where he can make the attack go onto one of his minions or his lackeys, but just that presence, that sneak attack, that in and of itself differentiates and gives us more flavor. As I talked about in the beginning, it makes him feel more like an NPC. It makes him feel like he's a living, breathing thing with a reason why he's the chieftain and what sets him apart in combat from the other goblins, besides just saying, when the PCs ask, is there one that looks more like the leader? Is there one, delegating? Is there one that looks a little bigger than others? That's always there. That's always present at the table. But now I've actually got a mechanical thing that I can throw into combat of, because the others are around him, they're dealing more damage. Why is this CR1 encounter so much more difficult when he's around? Why is the Hexblade giving me these curses? The Cutthroat, this guy's got sneak attack. The Shaman, he's got spell casting like druid spells. Then you go into the Skirmisher, who the goblin gains advantage on its first attack roll this turn if it has moved at least 15 feet. So you have just this different element to these goblins. The Witchdoctor is similar with the Shaman in that he casts spells, but his stuff is like Chill Touch and Bane and Ray of Sickness. It fits thematically. But now notice that what went from just a bunch of goblins and maybe a bigger goblin, the boss, in the monster manual, you now have a Skirmisher, a Witchdoctor, a Black Blade, a Shaman, a Cutthroat, a Chieftain, a Bodyguard, an Alchemist. You have so much diversity, and you've now created a place. You've created a tablescape where you throw down your goblin architecture and your terrain, and you've got these different miniatures that represent the different goblins, and how can it not make the encounter more memorable? That's the selling point right there. So very, very well done in creating diversity. And just, I'll kind of say it one more time. The largest impact will be on the various humanoids and giants whose ranks swell with various archetypes. You have berserkers, bruisers, champions, chieftains, shamans, skirmishers, marauders, priests, witch doctors. That same treatment that I just went over with goblins, that's there for giants. That's there for orcs. You've got those different eggheads. You change an encounter where previously was, you're almost funneled to a certain part of the monster manual when your PCs get too high because, I don't use eggheads anymore because the combat's too easy. They're too low CR. I don't use, in a really lawful good campaign, I don't use Diva because they're lawful good. They're allies. They're not going to fight against them. I don't have a goblin encounter because it doesn't challenge my group. But now with that diversity, it makes the combat unpredictable. And unpredictable is in favor of the DM, creates more interest, it creates more intrigue, it creates more excitement, but it also will make things more challenging because your PCs can't rely on information that they may sort of out of character already know. And it gives you a wealth of options at various levels, which just creates more replayability. Look at it from a video game perspective where if you're in a certain zone and certain things start to level up as you level up, you no longer have that aspect where, we don't go to this area anymore because we've out-leveled that. It makes you have content everywhere, and it just is more broad-reaching. And that's the best compliment that I can give to this. I think it's a wonderful book. I've gone through many of the monsters in here, and yes, everything is different. It's not just a reskin. There's, mostly there's artwork that accompanies it. The layout could be a little better. There's a little bit of spacing issues, and, you have to navigate your way through. But as you do, you see that there's just so much here. So Dragonics, very well done. Well worth your money. Get out there for $20. You're getting just more fun, more epic at your table. So I hope this sort of highlight into what you're getting in this book is enough to take you off the fence and help you make a better decision. That's all I've got for you folks. I appreciate everyone for watching. This is my review on Monster Manual Enhanced, a 5th edition supplement in PDF format, purchased for $20 on DM's Guild. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.